Hello again and welcome. What makes you you? Or at least what makes you think you are you? Am I really the same person that I was 10 years ago? Or just the last month? Is the self unified across time? We know definitely that there is a continuity of the sense of the self across time because we subjectively experience that. But is it really the case? This is where the difference lies between what really is and what we think is. Of course, there are various theories in the philosophy of identity trying to explain who we are or what we are. But wait, there's definitely a difference between who we are and what we are. When I say who we are, I presume that I am a who, that I'm a person with a mind, that I could only be referred to or addressed to as being a who. But when I'm saying what is, I'm asking about something that lacks the property of self, that lacks the property of mind. Okay then, at least I know what I am. I am a person, I am a who. But aren't all other people a who as well? Therefore, there is no specialness. How can we segregate between this who and your who? If we could say that everybody in a group is actually a who, we fall into a contradiction. Because who implies specialness. Everything is an apple. As much as we can accept this about apples or objects in general, we cannot accept this when we address human beings because we presume some type of uniqueness and specialness that is attributed to every individual. Let's start with the first theory, the biological theory. As much as you are a living human organism, you have a sense of continuity because you keep on being alive, you keep on surviving and carrying the body across time. Since you keep on being alive, you feel that you are always the same person, that nothing have changed, that your identity is one. But actually modern medicine shows us that this is actually not true. We know right now that your cells that make your body change across time. So if they change across time and you refer to yourself as being a body, doesn't that mean also that your identity changes too? This definitely sounds like the paradox of the ship of Theseus for the philosopher Plutarch. If we have a ship, for example, and we call it the ship of Theseus, and this ship sails, right? And every time a part of this ship wears down, we change it by another ship. And by the time this ship actually comes back, the whole parts that have set sail are changed. Is this still the ship of Theseus? If you subscribe to this biological theory, that what makes you you is the survival of the body, you would definitely deny that this is still the ship of Theseus because every part that make the ship of Theseus is actually gone. If you actually agree or say that or accept that this is still the ship of Theseus, it means that you perceive identity in another level. Me 10 years ago, I was shorter, weaker, maybe with thicker hair and not that brain developed. If you take a picture of me right now and a picture of me 10 years ago, you definitely cannot say that we are the same person. Unless I'm telling you that this is me 10 years ago. And only then you accept that I am still the same person. Because you presume some type of identity that survives bodily, physical changes. This takes us to the other theory, the psychological theory of identity. This theory says, as much as there is a continuity in your psychology and a continuity in memories and consciousness, your sense of self remains the same and your identity and your sense of identity persists. Look, stress that we think we are the same person, that we think we are still ourselves based on memories. Of course, I can still remember my memories from when I was 5 years of age, 10 years of age, across my whole lifespan until now. Since I can remember those levels in my life, I can definitely relate them to my state of existence right now. But the problem here, we presume some state of existence, a state of identity that relates to me here and now, that is extended, that could be extended towards the past. For example, I remember when I was 10 years of age, and I feel that I'm still the same person because I still have this memory. but I presume that I am the same person because I take who I am right now and I put it in that memory. Only then I think I am the same person. But if, for example, you remember some type of embarrassing memory that always happens, especially before you go to bed, I don't know why is that. But anyway, if you remember such embarrassing memory, you find it hard actually to relate to it. You find it hard to put your identity as here and now and relate it to that past experience, to that memory. Because obviously you regret being born, you regret being there, and you regret every action you have done in that memory. You regret every action, every thought, and everything. Of course, you cannot relate to that. So, doesn't that mean that the guy who was actually in that embarrassing memory is not you anymore? We can say definitely right now, since you are very regretful of that event, that if you were put in a similar event, in a similar situation, you would definitely act differently. So you 10 years ago would act in a way that makes you embarrassed. But you right now would act differently. But why is your behavior right now changed? It is changed because you have a memory that you have acted otherwise, and society has punished you for such behavior. Therefore, your former identity contributed majorly to your new identity. And if we take that part of identity from the past, you wouldn't be the same person right now. This only makes us think that identity is a construct of previous memories. So if you definitely say that myself 10 years ago who have done this embarrassing thing is not me, it is actually you, partly. Because if it was not for that guy 10 years ago who done that act, you wouldn't be here. So as much as you are now weighing 90 kilograms of pure muscle, you still have a weak man in you that have just joined the gym. But people would like always to define themselves as what they love and what they do and what they hate, what are their inclinations and indignations, and how they look and what they do and what they have, which all contain problems. If we have, for example, twins that both look the same, are they the same person? Of course not. We might find slight differences because, for example, the twin A have lived a slightly different experience than twin B, and they become different people. Different people with different life decisions that influence different identities in the future. If you give yourself an identity by what you have, if I have, for example, the same exact identical things that you have, are we the same person then? Of course not, this could not be the case. If you define yourself by what you do, if I give you, for example, somebody who does exactly what you do, is he again the same person? I think that there needs to be more of identity than just those superficial, shallow definitions. The psychological theory of identity in relation to memories is intact, especially for a determinist like me. I do define the self or identity as a mix of memories and genetics. Whatever we do in life is based on experience, on past memories. We are born into this world with a set of genetics inherited from our biological parents. Those genetics, of course, might include some proclivities towards doing something or feeling some way. But anyway, we start to navigate the world from experience zero, and those experiences shape our memories. And whenever we want to make a decision later in life, we make them based on experiences or memories, whatever you say. Experiences give memories. But anyway, these experiences give us memories, and we shape our whole lives based on those memories. But let's say, for example, that we have a person that have lost his memories, for example, in Alzheimer's disease. Does this person is still himself? Well, I think I am observing this from an external point of view, but we should rather think about it from an internal point of view, from a subjective point of view. Does this person feel that he is still the same person? This is where the psychological connectedness drops in. Even though if you lost half of your memories, you are still feeling that you are somebody. You are psychologically inclined towards things and psychologically avoiding other things, even though you don't have memories of them. But the psyche doesn't need a living, visible memory to operate. The subconsciousness leads a lot of choices in our lives, and we mistake it for consciousness. We mistake subconscious for consciousness. Once we make a choice, we think we consciously made that choice, but in matter of fact, it was made subconsciously. But how does subconsciousness operates without memories? It's not that the subconsciousness operates without memories, it's that the memories are buried deep in the psyche of even healthy individuals. Subconscious memories are different than conscious memories. Of course, in terms of conscious memories, we can retrieve them as much as we want to. I just might wanna think of my last party last year, and I can just think about it just like that. But in terms of the subconscious memories, I can't definitely do that because they are deeply rooted in my psyche. But if we have, for example, this guy that is sick with Alzheimer's disease and he loses 100% of his memories, is he still the same person? Or does he still feel that he is the same person? Of course, for us, this guy is definitely not the same person because his behavior have changed since he lost his memories. But for himself, does he feel that he did actually change? I don't think so, because there is a continuity of his psyche. But who is correct? Are we correct perceiving that this identity of this person has changed because he has lost his memories? Or is he correct claiming that he is still the same person because he is still feeling that he is still himself? This theory made by Parfit of psychological connectedness has definitely a lot of problems in it. I'm definitely feeling that I'm the same person. I'm feeling that from my very childhood. But there was definitely lots of time that some of my friends actually told me that you have changed just because we haven't met for a couple of days. Now, what did change? Of course, I have aged a bit, but they are definitely addressing how I behave and how I treat them, because this is what they can observe. They can't observe how I think, but they can only observe what am I saying and how I behave and what my decisions are and a couple of things like that. So I feel the same, but for other people, I'm definitely another person. Who is correct and who am I? If there was somebody, some other self was actually invading my body, can you please leave? It's not that even my body, it's not your body anymore. Your body have changed as well. As much as your psyche have changed, your body have changed as well. As you keep living, you keep on dying. You keep on emerging every time. You keep on emerging to life every time from the death of your previous versions. How many selves were you in your lifespan? I check out old photos and videos in my laptop and I feel definitely that the person in there is very different than I am right now. Different thoughts, different spatial, temporal location, different looks, different experiences, different everything. We could just play it safe that we feel that there is a continuity of identity through consciousness. As much as we feel that we are conscious, we keep on believing that we are still ourselves. This relates definitely to the biological theory. As much as we feel that we are still living and our bodies are surviving across time, same as our consciousness, we feel that we are the same person. I would say that the body changes, like we have seen in the ship of Theseus, is true, and we know that cellular change keeps on happening. So we would definitely be wrong to say that I am still in the same body, so that your identity cannot be the body. But in terms of consciousness, I would say that you are conscious as long as you could remember. But even consciousness gets actually developed. I don't think that you are actually fully conscious until you reach a certain age. Right now, I still remember in my very early childhood years that I didn't have this much self-awareness. I was definitely conscious about my surrounding, like any other cat or mouse there is. But this level of self-awareness was definitely impeded by lack of development. So we would say that you do not become you in those very first years because your consciousness is still not developed. So if your consciousness is your identity, if your consciousness is still not developed, it means that your identity and your sense of self is still not developed too. I personally think the self is dynamic, that we are never the same person, that every self in us was for a specific time in the timeline. As much as time progresses, selves keep on dying and new selves emerging from the very ashes of the dead selves. Your consciousness persists, but your body keeps on changing. New experiences influence your psychological state. But anyway, I think that's all for this episode. If you sticked around until you have reached this far, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and see you in the next one.